Hello. Of course, I have the music muted. All right. How's everyone doing? Just getting started here. Whew. So, we're gonna start out as doing something a little spooky today. Ooh. I didn't feel like gaming really. That's okay. I just have a lot to work on lately. So, rather than gaming today, we're going to be doing SCP reading again. I just like it. I just think it's a lot of fun. Oh, hang on. I'm just floating there. There we go. Immersion ruins. Oh no. Not really. All right. All right. Yeah, I'm just pulling up the website. It's okay, all good. Huh. Hey. Cool. Actually, other than like reading the SCP entries, there's the tales. So, I feel like that could be something interesting too. Yes. Our SCP, hang on, let me just see something. All right. I'm just looking at the licensing stuff. I don't know what the rule is for tales, because I know the SCP entries themselves are... Okay. I think it should be good because this is just for entertainment. I'm not monetization. I'm not monetized or anything. Okay. This should be good. Alright. Let me turn down the background music. Just a little bit. Maybe I'll switch it out to something a little more appropriate. All right. Ooh. That looks good. Let's do, yes, none. Let's do some lewd music, yeah. All right. Should be good. All right. Okay. All right. Hello, dead man. How are you? Okay. Okay. We should be good now. That's good. Why don't we get settled? Let me know how everything sounds. I didn't feel like gaming today. Hey Zach, how are you? How's everything sound? I can turn down the background music. That seems to be a little bit loud. There we go. Okay. So yeah, we're just doing story time, okay? SCP ready, yes. I see there. So we're going to be reading some stories from the wiki that are connected to the SCP universe. These are more like, I guess, narration friendly rather than reading the articles. Okay, let's get started. Dr. Iceberg wove his way down the hall on a makeshift IV crutch, with Dr. Gears limping alongside. Most of the security teams and cleaning crews had already passed, so they had the hall to themselves, which was probably for the best as neither was too stable. Iceberg had his hand clamped over his chest and wheezed every few steps, flecks of blood dotting his tattered clothes. Gears stood straighter, but tipped hard to the right with each step. A slow, steady stream of blood leaking from a wound in his thigh on his tattered, scorched left side. They walked, two scorched, broken, bleeding men, into an empty hallway, stumbling and weaving into the infirmary, leaving small patches of blood and burnt material behind. The officer on the security cameras for that area took almost no notice, logging only doctors passed, injured. The requests for read application testing for possible military decommissioning via thermal and HE materials. It should have read, Dr. Iceberg throws bombs at things, being as explosives, triplicate oversight reports, and chocolate bars were his three major passions. It shouldn't have been as bad an idea as it was. Things were going well while the conventional explosives were still being used. But when Dr. Iceberg started using his homebrew devices, things rapidly started to go less well. Several explosions were forceful enough to receive complaints from site security, while the second-to-last device caused some major damage to the outside walls of the test chamber. However, much like throwing a football in the house next to a breakable vase, Blow Things Up is a game that is fun right until the last time it's played. Last Toss was an item labeled on the test manifest as a slow bomb. It seemed to be a dud at first. Wire-wrapped cube, sliding harmlessly to a stop at the far end of the chamber, as the two men watched from what they felt was a point of safety. The device slowly started to distort and rip apart, showing a white-hot mass of roiling plasma inside its structure. It expanded like a flower opening in a dream, moving an inch away, moving an inch every 10 or 20 seconds. A slow-motion explosion. It was as the rapidly swelling wall of flames started to march past the safe beyond this point line that Iceberg's manic grin started to fade. The next slice of time was hazy to both men. Dr. Gears was able to recall slightly more details, but most of it boiled down to flames, alarms, men in containment suits, and the strong smell of frying pork. Both were funneled out to triage. Mark, made capable of walking, was sent down to the infirmary under their own power. The walk of shame is a very different thing inside the Foundation, and Iceberg was especially glad that the hall was empty. Gears, as always, was impassive, and except the bodily damage and limp, appeared basically unchanged from what he entered the testing room. As they approached the infirmary, Iceberg wondered, for the 1000th time, if he really was some kind of robot. The infirmary admitted them with a minimum of notice, as they were dealing with the after effects of a light bulb that, when powered up, emitted light that caused most bones to start to liquefy and extrude through the sweat glands. Neither of the two doctors were overly injured by Foundation standards, so they quickly found themselves in hospital beds and nearly forgotten as the team rushed to deal with newer and stranger injuries. As Iceberg fingered at the cool gel patch covering a nasty burn on his right arm, he looked over at Dr. Gears. Impassive as always, his leg was wrapped in a soft cast and elevated, with several small gauze patches on his face, neck, and arms in varying shades of pink, red, and black. Iceberg winced a bit, feeling something mildly fractured shift in his chest, and nodded to Dr. Gears. Sorry about that again. I really didn't expect it to get that out of hand. Honestly. Gears nodded slightly, still facing the ceiling. There is no need. Accidents happen. Iceberg leaned back, sighing as the painkiller started to pull him down into a deep, dreamless rest. He woke with a groan to the sound of tapping. Gingerly shaking his head to clear it, he turned to see Dr. Gears tapping with a stylus at the screen of a tablet laptop. He seemed ignorant of Iceberg, or at least uncaring, so Iceberg decided to try and see how sitting up would go. The first flex of his abdomen brought a lancing comment of pain arcing through his chest. So he rapidly decided to postpone any testing and fell back with a groan. Gears finished, carefully placing the computer on a side table and nodding to Iceberg. You were asleep when they changed your wrappings. You won't be able to move in any serious way for 2 days. I will be unable to walk for 4 days, and have had to reassign our schedules to others. Iceberg sighed, closing his eyes as he eased back on the pillow. 2 days of hospital food and company with a man who'd been accused of being a robot multiple times, rarely in jest. Lovely. He passed some time daydreaming, mentally working out the kinks on the slow bomb until he started feeling restless again. He turned to Gears, watching him stare at the ceiling, arms crossed, breathing regularly. Hey Gears, are you awake? He asked, hoping he wasn't sleeping with his eyes open again. He knew it was just a trick you could learn, but with Gears, it was just creepy. The tall, thin man turned his head slowly to look at Iceberg. He was nearly immobile, but for his mouth. Yes, Dr. Iceberg, I am. What is it? Face now, with the older man's full attention. Iceberg suddenly felt oddly comfortable and unprepared, as he'd suddenly been called on to answer the question while he'd been daydreaming. Well, I was wondering, why do Kane, Agent Fritz, and that one tubby janitor always call you Cog? Dr. Gears stared for a few moments, blinking slowly. Your last name is not Dr. Iceberg, correct? Iceberg blinked, taken off guard before stammering. Yeah, no. Yes, that's not my last name. Gears nodded, making a small gesture with his hand. It is an alternate identification designation assigned by site security. Policy on this topic has been a near constant state of flux, both due to alterations in administrative staff and planned security cycling. Most of the identification designations are picked at random, with some following a set of signing protocol. Some also appear to have been chosen as a form of gag or inside joke. However, this was not always the case. He paused, taking a breath. An iceberg kept totally silent. This was the longest non-work or survival-related conversation Gears had ever engaged with Iceberg, and he didn't want to break the spell. During my intake, the security protocols were still being derived from old military designations and acronyms. My initial designation was COG, derived from the initials of my name. Later, when a determination was made that this was too much of a security weakness, my designation was altered to Gears, most likely due to my extensive work on SCP-882 and the similarity to my previous designation. Iceberg sat, processing a moment before speaking. Wait, so COG is your initials? So what is your actual name? Gears blinked several times slowly, still watching Iceberg, and the young man knew that no answer was forthcoming. He changed tactics, hoping to probe for more information. He exercised, taking his mind off the pulsing pain in his side. Alright, so Gears, honestly, are you a robot, or like a Vulcan or something? You have to admit you're not really, normal. Dr. Gears laid back, resting his hands on his chest. Iceberg was expecting silence, or his methodical, mechanical, "I'm not a robot" reply that really did nothing to help. Instead, Gears drew in a breath slowly and explained, "My mental peculiarities are somewhat sedate when compared to the various emergent coping mechanisms developed by other staff members. However, I can understand how mine are particularly noticeable. No, I am not a robot or any other form of altered human or non-human." He paused, blinking several times before continuing. "I simply adapted too well." Iceberg watched the older men reclining in the hospital bed, confused. He could almost swear that Gears seemed conflicted or even depressed. He was about to ask when Dr. Gears started up again. "I'm not an emotionless robot, I feel. I feel pain and sadness at the loss of a friend. I feel joy when achieving a positive goal, and regret when falling short. I feel fear, even horror, when faced with things capable of great harm, or worse. It is not that I cannot feel. It is that I cannot respond to it, much like the feeling you have when on powerful narcotic painkillers. I am aware of my feelings and what I'm supposed to do with them, but they feel distant, disconnected. I've seen someone crying and feeling a slight empathy for their plight, but not being moved to tears yourself." Iceberg sat, slightly stunned. Stan's imagination ran off almost instantly, trying to conceive of going through everything he had already been pushed through. This time, unable to react, feeling all the pain and joy and fear and being locked away with it, like a lunatic in a rubber room, observed, locked, and forgotten. Iceberg shuddered, unable to look directly at Gears for a time. When he finally looked back, Gears was still staring. Iceberg had to repress another involuntary shudder. He was about to ask another question when a nurse came in and carted him off for some blood tests. He was also informed that an oversight committee would be looking to his explosive research at the end of the month. By the time he made it back, Dr. Gears was already asleep. The next day, Iceberg woke up late, and to his great joy was able to move with a medium of blinding pain. The bed next to him was empty, and Iceberg looked at it thoughtfully. Since being recruited by the Foundation, fresh from college no less, he'd been paired up with Dr. Gears almost instantly. He'd been very scared at first. Many new recruits reacted with varying degrees of fear, awe, and pity when he told them his new assignment, which did nothing for his already limited confidence. What's more, it took months to realize that Gears didn't actually hate him, that it was just his default setting of total indifference. Even worse, they kept getting assigned to the worst jobs. He still shivered to think about his first run-in with an SCP-882 breach. Still, after all this time, he knew next to nothing about Dr. Gears. Many of the other staff were pretty vocal about who they used to be, and some were allowed a semi-normal life outside the site. Gears, however, was a black box. No idle conversation of the past, no hidden tokens or photos in a desk. He checked. No. Anything, really. Never leaves the site except for Foundation business. Never takes any time off. Never engages in any non-work activity unless forced to. What was even stranger was that nobody knew anything about him. Even the classic busybodies around the site had no real clue who he was. And the database became a large password-encrusted Tower of Doom when asked about Dr. Gears. The sharp click of the door brought Iceberg back to reality quickly. Gears hobbled slightly as he worked his way to the bed. Laying down and adjusting a bandage at his side, he spoke to the ceiling, not a gesture or look for the man he was addressing. I am being released early. You will need to remain here for another day, but I expect you to be ready to resume your duties as soon as you are released. Iceberg sighed, shaking his head and looking away. Silence drew out for long moments before Iceberg turned, looked pointedly at Gears. He said, "What the hell happened to you? I mean, what the fuck, man? You're goddamn Spock, but without those little lapses of human feeling. Did they experiment on you? Did you have a breakdown? What the hell?" As Gears stared at him, Iceberg became acutely aware of the fact that what he had was just said may amount to insubordination or unauthorized security probing of a level where large men with guns is the most comforting portion of the disciplinary measure. The two men stared for what felt like a long time, Iceberg almost unwilling to blink, feeling a creeping measure of fear on par with reviewing security tapes of SCP-173. After a time, Gears blinked slowly and nodded. What happened? I have been asked that multiple times, and I know of many more theories to this effect. What happened was nothing unique, nothing that is impossible to repeat or hasn't happened to others. It is easy to assume that there was a single defining moment in the transition to my current state, and I do not believe this to be so. It is gradual, like a sickness. After a time, you simply wake up, different. Iceberg shook his head, processing this new tidbit. Okay, so you just declined, I guess? Jesus, I mean, how the hell does something like that happen? You still haven't said what actually happened, what started this. He trailed off as Gears turned to stare at the younger man again. Are you loyal to the Foundation, Dr. Iceberg? I assume you will reply in the positive, but think before you respond. I am loyal, but not because of a sense of duty or empowerment. I believe fully in the work being done here. I believe that, without the Foundation, humanity as we know it would crumble in a very short time. I believe that we, the few with the resources and means to do so, have the direct obligation to insulate others from all that we are containing. The door to the room opened with a small, poorly oiled, and annoying squeal that went totally unnoticed to Iceberg. Even as a youngish doctor entered and started reading off discharge information in the general direction of Dr. Gears, Iceberg still heard little. Unsettling ideas were bumping around, unpleasant recollections of tests ordered and observed, of instances where the greater good overwhelmed normal human decency, moments where he knew for a fact that he should be repulsed or frightened, or at least unsettled, but felt only mild interest at best. He snapped back from the increasingly stormy seas of his mind when Gears started to leave the hospital bed, aided by an arm from the doctor. Why are you telling me this? He asked. Dr. Gears turned slightly and spoke to Iceberg over his shoulder, his voice carrying that odd, toneless quality again. In regards to your request in relation to our future work, you may find the literature I've mentioned enlightening. In addition, there is an epitaph in Tasmania, Australia, that may prove useful as a motto or guide stone. I will expect you to report in for new assignments as soon as you are discharged. The youngish medical doctor looked between the two others, slightly confused and wary, but continued to help Gears from the room. Iceberg was left alone in seconds, both unsettled and deeply confused. It wasn't until days later that Iceberg got the chance to try and investigate the rather cryptic message. Gears had mentioned nothing more about anything he had said in the hospital, and Iceberg had found himself deluged with paperwork and solo testing. He had barely spoken to or seen anyone for nearly 2 days, and finally decided a little investigation might break up the tedium. It took only a little prodding to find what he was looking for, but it took more time to process. As you are now, so was I. As I am now, soon you shall be. Prepare yourself to follow me. Iceberg sat alone in the deepest bowels of the underground site, surrounded by mounds of neatly typed records of horrors and atrocities, and tried very hard not to feel cold. Oof. So I guess that's just like a brief introduction to like how the Foundation works. I guess when you see a lot of horrors, you get kind of desensitized to that. Are you an SCP dead man? Why don't we do a tail and then a random, then an SCP and then another tail? I think that'd be interesting, huh? Right. Thank you very much. Alright, so this was mentioned, and supposedly this is the very first SCP. Okay. Alright, so we have the SCP-173, which is a Euclid. Item SCP-173 is to be kept in a locked container at all times. When personnel must enter SCP-173's container, no fewer than 3 may enter at any time, and the door is to be relocked behind them. At all times, 2 persons must maintain direct eye contact with SCP-173 until all personnel have vacated and relocked the container. Move to Site 19, 1993. Origin is as of yet unknown. It is constructed from concrete and rebar with traces of Krylon brand spray paint. SCP-173 is animate and extremely hostile. The object cannot move while within a direct line of sight. Line of sight must not be broken at any time with SCP-173. Personnel assigned to enter container are instructed to alert one another before blinking. Object is reported to attack by snapping the neck at the base of the skull or by strangulation. In the event of an attack, personnel are to observe Class 4 hazardous object containment procedures. Personnel report sounds of scraping stone originating from within the container when no one is present inside. This is considered normal, and any change in this behavior should be reported to the acting HMCL supervisor on duty. The reddish-brown substance on the floor is a combination of feces and blood. Origin of these materials is unknown. The enclosure must be cleaned on a bi-weekly basis. Gross. There we go. Alright, let's read another tale. This one is called Incident Mike Echo 7 Alpha. Nice, huh? Okay. Richard Gnosis sat there at his desk, staring at his laptop screen in a mix of bewilderment, shock, and relief. Sure, he knew that there was a group of researchers that had been working for the Hand, spanning the gamut of clearances from level 1 to level 4. And yes, he did know that they were planning on escaping their sites back to wherever the hell the Hand held Foundation traitors. But he didn't expect them to be so stupid as to post all their files on the internet. And yet there it was, the green eyes of SCP-173 staring at him from the screen of his laptop. At least the people responsible had been caught. He didn't bother trying to disguise where the upload was from. But by the time the leak was discovered, it was too late to stop it. They'd already managed to upload 5 entire reports, partially censored, thank God. He closed his laptop screen, unable to take that mocking pixelated glare any longer, leaned back in his chair and thought. In his head, he ran through the standard information control options, discarding all of them one by one. There was already a noticeable uptick in the amount of searches for Foundation-related keywords. Looking at the results, apparently some random paranormal community or another had found the report on 173 and decided it was interesting. He could use this. He loaded the files on some of the SCPs he was cleared to access for inspiration and got to work writing. Gains energy from anything it ingests, organic or inorganic. Reddish-brown substance on the floor is a combination of, created in the aftermath of World War II from the remnants of defeating. A few of the entries were completely unedited versions of real files on SCPs. Some of them were copies of false data that had been given to people suspected of being spies. Different fake SCPs for different people would let him figure out who was a traitor leaking data and who just looked guilty. He didn't want to delete the real ones, it might draw suspicion, except he stopped. His eyes fell on 3 digits, and his mouse moved over to the delete button. He looked at the portrait on his desk, then back. He clicked and got back to work. He had ideas for characters, so many ideas, and they all had to be written. He worked hard into the night, his fingers dancing over the keys in an irregular rhythm, pausing for a few minutes to wait for a burst of inspiration, and then tapping like raindrops on a window pane. After a few hours, the words started swimming in front of his eyes, but he pressed on like a man possessed by a muse until he could write no more. He closed the lid of his laptop. The last thing he saw before he closed his eyes, a group portrait of 16 people, and even when he let sleep him, his characters appeared to him in his dreams, whispering ideas and plot hooks to his subconscious. When he woke up the next day, he found himself watching his phone walk across his desk. He grabbed it and sat up, rubbing where his cheek had been resting against the metal imprint on his laptop for the past few hours, and read the screen with red eyes. He had a meeting in an hour. Shit. And it was in room 307 with 3 people. Shit. He knew exactly what that meant. He splashed some cold water in his face, slapped his cheeks a few times, and read over his files on the security breach. Meeting with senior staff was never enjoyable. They always showed up in 3s. It was the smallest number that could prevent deadlock and allow debate on both sides of an issue. And they preferred to meet together as little as possible, so when Gnosis showed up to the meeting the next day regarding Incident Michael Echo 7 Alpha, he knew roughly what to expect. 3 faces, none of whom he was familiar with, stared at him without a single hint of emotion as he entered the door. There was a smell of sterility and rubbing alcohol, and his eyes watered just a little. He took a seat. What made you think that the best approach to the worst leaks since you started working information control was to publicize it? Dr. Myers, a serious-looking scientist whose balding hair contrasted with his younger features. He couldn't have been older than 40. Sir, it was my professional judgment that shutting down the site posted by the defectors would only draw more attention, especially given that it would require purging it from search engine caches. How does that make a difference? I'm not an expert, but I know we've purged data from engines before, and surely any publicity we might draw from the shutdown would be better than this. Was Dr. Hefner, a thin woman who looked to be in her 50s. Yes, sir, but it's difficult. My contacts are no longer in positions that allow them access. A remote entry would require more computational power than I can access. So you're telling us you're not good enough to do it. The third man was named Gregor. He was the youngest of the three, maybe in his late 30s. He'd obviously never worked in the field. A body shaped like that never could have passed the field agent regimen. I do not believe, sir, that anybody could have done any better. Breaking into the systems of an entity such as Google is a highly non-trivial task. Your reports indicate that you've developed alternate senior staff for the fictional foundation. Surely you don't mind on maintaining them yourself, Hefner again. I do, sir. He shifted about uncomfortably in his chair. He knew that this would be the part that would be the hardest for him to swallow. But he had to keep this story going, for his own sake. He could have sworn Myers was writing something down on a notepad just out of his vision. So the containment for this leak is going to cause a drain on your resources for the foreseeable future? Gregor looked amused, a grin spreading across his slightly overweight face. Unfortunately, yes. So why shouldn't we just have the information scrubbed the hard way? Then reassign you to secondary duty. The grin spread further. He looked about ready to bite his head off. With all due respect, sir, part of working in information control is the ability to react without explicit authorization from one's superiors. If necessary, I can curb the number of personas required. However, I believe the job can be completed in my spare time. I certainly hope so. We don't pay you to sit around and write stories all day. Hefner's pencil-thin lips betrayed the barest hint of a smirk. Stories are what I deal with, sir. This is just a different form of disinformation, one that will cloak the truth in a sea of lies. I certainly hope you're right, Doctor. Dismissed. Myers stood and left, followed by the other two. Thank you, sirs. He quickly rose and exited, then returned to his quarters, trying to lose himself in the crowd of researchers, agents, and secondary personnel that always flowed through the halls of the site. The gravity of what he'd done was catching up to him. He needed sleep. He was starting to twitch and have thoughts that he thought he had suppressed. So he collapsed in his bed, not bothering to change out of his work clothes, and let sleep claim him. In his dreams, the characters he had written came back to him, taunting him with his recollections. And for the next few days, in between other assignments, he worked on the project, writing stories of love and loss, of happiness and sadness, and the entire spectrum in between, of triumph and failure. He didn't publish them all right away. He published them over time, trying to build up an audience for his stories. At first, his performance didn't suffer. He contained information breaches well enough, and his supervisors let it slide. But he withdrew more and more into the fantasy of his own creations. Leaks grew in frequency, went unnoticed for longer, and contained more damaging information. And when his door was unlocked from the outside and forced open, he didn't make a sound save for the soft clicking of key presses. Final report on Incident Mike Echo 7 Alpha. Dr. Gnosis' plan to hide the leaked documents in plain sight has worked. There have been no signs of elevated suspicion regarding the leaked Foundation documents, and further leaks can be brought under the aegis of this one as an alternate reality game. It is quite fortunate that many of the leaked documents are also fake. This gives us the opportunity to detect investigation via standard query tagging procedure. However, one aspect of the created fiction is troubling. 2 weeks before the incident, a containment breach in Site-19 led to the death of several Foundation personnel that were good friends with Dr. Gnosis. Many of the invented personalities seem to resemble those of the deceased, and the fictional Foundation possesses the technology to selectively erase memories. It is therefore suggested that Dr. Gnosis be removed from the incident team as soon as it is reasonably possible to avoid escapism or other mental problems. On date has been redacted. 5 days after the incident, Dr. Gnosis's access to the Mike Echo 7 Alpha project was stripped. He was forced into psychiatric leave with mandatory counseling regarding the death of his friends. Initial attempts are promising in part due to the threat of mandatory retirement, but efforts must be made in order to prevent a relapse. The password to his account, codename, that's blanked out, is unknown and cannot be reset without alerting the host of the information. However, the password for the accounts of the characters have been recovered. Their personas have proven to be too popular to discontinue, and therefore have been assigned to redacted, with stories to be written in their spare time as necessary. Ooh. Hello, John. How are you? Alright, next one. So this one is SCP-184, Architect. Alright. SCP-184 is not to be contained in any structure. SCP-184 is to be attached to a higher power electromagnetic at all times. Should the electromagnet fail, agents are to report to SCP-184's containment area and prevent access to all unauthorized personnel until the electromagnet is restored to power. The containment area for SCP-184 is currently configured to resemble a park, with SCP-184 and its containment magnet disguised as a statuary. Any and all visitors are to be monitored. Any structures affected by SCP-184 are to be demolished after review by the Truth. Finally, final demolition, approval, or inclusion into SCP will be determined by this body. No investigation is to be done into affected structures without approval and a rescue team on standby. SCP-184 is a small, smooth, metallic object, 10 centimeters tall and 10 centimeters wide, in the shape of a dodecahedron. Each face of the figure has a circular hole in the center, and a small sphere is attached to each vertex. SCP-184 is made of an unknown but highly magnetic alloy, about as hard as brass. When inside an enclosed tech structure, SCP-184 expands the structure's inner dimensions without altering its outer dimensions. SCP-184 will increase the inner dimensions of any enclosed structure by several hundred meters each day, beginning 1 hour after entry into the structure. Initially, SCP-184 only extends the walls out, causing rooms to become much larger without adjusting the height of the room. This expansion continues until the original dimensions of the room have been tripled. At this point, SCP-184 starts creating wholly new rooms. SCP-184 is apparently able to copy items from inside the structure, creating furnished rooms consistent with the rest of the structure. After a period of time, however, the expansion process appears to break down. For example, items will be made from inappropriate materials, glass books, a wooden microwave. Rooms will be oddly shaped, doors will open into blank walls, and hallways will be tiny or twist back around in long mazes. The new inside structures continue to be more and more odd, while the outside remains unchanged. This behavior is most dramatically illustrated in homes. However, it has been observed in other instances, including a cardboard box. The changes do not go away with the removal of SCP-184, but no additional structures are created. This is an addendum. I don't think I need to stress the fact that this thing can never be allowed into Site-19. We may need to look into a different containment at some point, but for the time being, we will keep it in the open, immovable and hidden. It is currently hypothesized that SCP-184 or an anomaly with a similar effect may be responsible for the creation of locations of interest, such as Backdoor Soho and Shogoku Cellar. Investigation to SCP-184 as a potential origin for these spaces is ongoing. SCP-184 was recovered in the Kowloon-walled city in June of, I'm assuming, 1990-something. Reports of the city's bizarre and explosive growth attracted operatives who would soon learn of SCP-184, held in the possession of data expunge. After several police crackdowns, Mobile Task Force Zeta-9 was dispatched and recovered SCP-184 with minimal losses. The final effect of exposure to SCP-184 on both the city and inhabitants may never be fully understood due to the reckless actions of local law enforcement, which destroyed several affected sections of the city before operatives could take action to prevent it. Interviews with residents yielded minimal information, with a communal wall of silence being the major response. A few documents indicated that SCP-184 could be brought into a home and allowed to affect the dwelling for £50 sterling per half hour. These documents were unconfirmed by residents. Thank you. Right. We do have a personal log. Alright. This is a log written by somebody who was on the mobile team Zeta-9. June 3rd. Dispatched to the Kowloon-walled city to recover an object and document have anything affected by it. I have never seen such a horrible place. The filth is everywhere, whole walls and even structures made of garbage. If you crack your suit for even a second, you get flooded by the smell of smoke, cooking meat, sweat, oil, machine oil, and excrement. Henry fell into a pit used as a sewer on the ground level after breaking through a trash walkway. He was fine, the suit was just filthy, but he threw up and had to be removed. I'm not sure if he's going to work out. Everyone here avoids us like the plague, and darts out to throw trash or insults. They are a tribe, and a territorial one at that. The sheer crush of humanity is intimidating, and I'm glad I have the suit between me and them. The object is supposed to be somewhere in the core of this mass, but getting there is going to be tricky. June 4th. Local law enforcement, led by agents, did a bunch of raids last night. Cleared people out of some of the areas we need to go in. But there are so many people here, it's hard to notice any difference. Yesterday's recon helped uncover a couple of homes affected by this thing. They don't look like much, the same squalid homes as everyone else, but they are too big inside. It's an odd feeling, standing with your hand on the wall, and knowing that, by all rights, you should be 6 feet outside the structure in midair. Henry is better today, but seems really jumpy. Lev took him aside and talked to him last night, and I hope it's helped. I'm getting worried about him. Caught him muttering to himself over the radio today. Told him to knock it off, but didn't report it. Maybe I should have. I think I'm going to ask for him to be put on a different unit after this. Deep recon this evening. We're splitting up to try and hunt down where they are storing this thing. Lev and I hold the short stick and have to hike it around the sewer system. Honestly, it can't be any worse than topside. At least I won't have to keep seeing the blank, empty faces of these people. June 6th. Henry is dead. We didn't get back until early this morning. We'd been off the radio for several hours because of all the interference. It seems areas affected by this thing screw with radio waves pretty bad. The sewer was a nightmare, but no sign of alteration by the item. When we came back up, Paul gave me the news. Henry and Paul were exploring near the center of the city when they got attacked. A mob of people swarmed them and dragged Henry off. Paul was hurt and his suit was badly damaged, and he had to leave for medical attention. Henry was screaming over the radio for a while, and then it cut off. Paul and a couple other mole rats charged in with some agents to recover Henry, but after a few minutes, Henry came back on the radio. His receiver was broken, but he could still broadcast. One of the agents was recording, and he played it back to 11i to see if any of it made sense to us. It didn't. He was rambling and sounded like he was hurt. Kept talking about the endless heart of the city, the hell of glass, just crazy stuff. Paul and the rescue team kept trying to find him, but suddenly his radio cut out again. Henry came tearing down one of those tiny halls, helmet off and screaming like a madman. He ran right by Paul and smashed an agent into a wall on his way by. He slammed into a dead end and just exploded through it, right out of the building. He fell 6 stories into some metal junk. It took an hour to get his body untangled. We're done screwing around here. Agent Parks, Lev, and me are rounding up what amounts to the city elders, and we're getting to the damn bottom of this. June 7th. Interrogation went well. Agent Parks asked the questions. He provided what he called negative consequences for non-cooperation. The first guy, some triad punk, didn't want to talk. 2 broken legs later, and he was a lot more open. Said the thing was called the Builder, and nobody knew when it first came to the city. He never had anything to do with it, just helped stand guard outside rooms where it was working. He said that was all he knew, and that we had to talk to one of the elders, Long Wen, if we wanted it. He apologized for Henry's death, said it was just the way of things. He broke his jaw in 3 places. Long Wen may be the oldest looking man I've ever seen, and with a will like iron. He just took everything we dished out and didn't say a word. Parks said that the next stop was his wife and grandkids, and that got him talking. Told us it was kept in one of the oldest parts of the city, some old temple. It had grown and made wonderful things, but only the worthy could look upon it and not be overwhelmed by it. He said Henry was shown the wonders in the hopes that he would be able to convince us not to take the Builder, but that he was not worthy and he was broken. We made him show us where they keep it. Long Wen said it wouldn't do any good. It was buried too deep. They moved it deep inside when they first caught wind of the agents. They said we'd never get it back. We're doing deep work tomorrow, and we're not coming out without it. June 10th. Been out for a while. This place is amazing. At first it was just a temple that was too big inside. Neat, but nothing new. Then we went in deeper. Whole rooms, altars, everything recreated and rearranged by this thing. It's like someone built 12 whole temples inside this one tiny structure. Agent Parks set up a recall point in the main hall with some other agents to make sure nobody sneaks up on us. We suited up and went to work. It started getting odd after hour 6. Lots of hallways, not as many rooms. And 83 rooms all connected by those sliding doors, each with a tiny Buddha in the center of the floor, nothing else. Lev grabbed a few for samples. We knew things were getting odd when we came to a perfect reproduction of the first altar room, but appearing to be made of one solid mass of wood. Thing was beautiful, totally seamless, and not a single tool mark on anything. Paul found some documents, and we scanned them back to Parks. He said they were about the object. Apparently, they're calling it SCP-184 now. Parks said it talks about how they moved 184 deeper each time it made a new area. They thought it was some gift from God or something. Used it to expand rooms, if people would donate to the temple, or at least to the gangs who controlled it at the time. I've never been in a place like this. It's getting harder to maneuver. The halls are starting to get strange. They go up at funny angles, and the last few rooms have been tiny. By Lev's account, we should be 20 feet above the roof of this whole city by now. June 12th? I'm getting sick of this place. Came to a branch yesterday, had to split the team. I drew the up hallway and set up, out. Not sure how long I've been climbing. The halls aren't regular anymore. They wave in and out. It's like a frozen earthquake. Everything seems to be made of stone here. Managed to squeeze into a side room to catch my breath. Once I looked around, I saw everything was made of jade. It was all colored right and had the right texture, but it was jade. Bed, chairs, tables, books, everything. I sat on the bed for 2 hours and didn't think. I got up and smashed the jade lamp that was probably worth more than my life and left. I'm not feeling well. I feel really disconnected here, like an astronaut or something. It's not like other areas I've been in. Never felt so alone. I'm fine, I know that. It's Henry dying, the whole rotten city outside, and me being alone and able to think too much. Rats are tested for mental stability, and I passed with flying colors. It's just my nerves. I'm sitting on a chair made of thousands of tiny dragon statues, writing on a table made of super dense paper, and I am fine. Right. I've been out too long. Food low, water low. Not out yet, but getting there. Hearing things. Keep thinking I hear voices. Been climbing for days. Saw light today. At the end of a side hall, bright yellow light. I climbed into the hall and ran, smashed through a door, and it was a room. Millions of candles, all lit. But just another room. Pulled off my helmet, smashed the candles with it. Broke my lens. Next seal. Radio. Didn't care. Sat and cried for hours. Dropped a pick down the shaft today. Never heard it hit bottom. Almost jumped to go get it, but stopped. Got to find this thing. Got to smash it to bits. Stomp it. Crush it. Food out. Suit can't make any more water. I saw a hall with 10,000 doors. Ran down it, smashed a bunch, then kept climbing. Lost my boots. Floor looked like carpet. Made of super sharp stone. Cut suit to ribbons, feet too. Blood all over the shaft. Hope it appreciates it. Going to crush this thing. Feel it shatter in my hand. Hate this place. Keep hearing Henry. Keep telling him he's dead. Won't listen. Top of shaft, hall to forever. Lights everywhere. Going to kill the heart. Hell is heaven. Heaven is hell. Life is wonderful. Gordon Richards went missing during the recovery of SCP-184, presumed KIA. SCP-184 recovered by Team Zeta-9. Journal recovered in rubble left from destruction of SCP-184 affected temple. Interesting. Alright. Do another tale. This one is called That Goddamn Thing. The seat that was provided was a harsh gunmetal black edifice, wrapped enough that it was effectively impossible to place all 4 legs on the floor at once. It made an obnoxious clacking sound when Dr. Johannes Sorts shifted his weight, noise echoing through the unnecessarily large concrete room. Row upon row of harsh fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, the sound only momentarily drowned out when Dr. Sorts shifted his weight back again. Clack. Agent Schaefer cast an irritated glance over the top of a manila folder. He closed it and clasped his hands atop the blank cover, leaning forward across the scarred and pitted old cafeteria table between himself and the doctor. Apart from the comfortable padded folding chair he occupied, the doctor and the table were the only other things in the stadium-sized chamber. You do, of course, know where we are and why we are here, Schaefer asked, the first he had spoken since security had escorted the twitchy little doctor into the room. Dr. Sorts rolled his eyes in open contempt, but cast his gaze toward the unfinished floor and mumbled, I'm not stupid. I also know he stuck me in this chair to make me feel uncomfortable. I know what this room was used for before it was repurposed to contain that goddamn thing. Schaefer watched the doctor very carefully, noting the difficulty with which the other man spoke. He opened the folder again, noting that the enclosed psychological profile had indicated a marked increase in the subject's paranoia in the past months. Doctor, that was the only other chair in the room. We didn't not bring it in here to torment you. It's not like we entertain guests here. Yeah, it's 2 chairs in the room. And you got a good one. Call it what you will. Sarts grumbled, shifting his weight again to send a clacking sound to bounce out the distant walls. The floors in here are rough and dirty, only worn smooth in tracks where the forklifts move the pallets around. How much manpower did it take to yank up all the old shelves that used to be in the storage room, just so it could be a glorified lobby for you? I mean that goddamn thing. Would you like to trade seats? The agent offered calmly. I think I'm fine where I am, annoying you with this unbalanced chair. Sort squirmed back and forth until his chair made a squealing noise on the concrete. Dr. Swartz, you are a level 2 researcher. Given that you lack the clearance, could you explain exactly how you learned about me? Swartz gripped the edge of the table with pudgy hand and finally met the agent's eyes with a contemptuous glare. Don't talk like that. You and I both know what... The doctor licked his dry lips and swallowed before continuing. You and I both know what we're talking about, but I'm the only person who can speak honestly here. You lack the capability. You didn't answer my question. This was a grave security breach. Given your own specialized research into pneumatics, you understand the severity of this leak and how your very knowledge of me is a dangerous liability. So what? You're going to terminate me? Swords screeched. The only person who can deal with that goddamn thing? The open discussion of... Agent Schaefer paused to consider his words carefully. This matter caused a pneumatic containment breach that infected the entire break room at Site 19. Pneumatics is bullshit. Swords introduction. A meme is when I say knock knock and you say who's there. It's not a virus, it's not a weapon, it's not a compulsion. The other researchers in the break room are not sick, any more than they already were. Anyway. Doctor, Swords laughed. Meme is a stupid fucking word to fancy up the concept of a running joke. One of the more irritating concepts that mouth-breathing crap flinger Richard Dawkins has inflicted upon an undeserving world. I hate the very word. Meme. I pronounce it meme every time I can, because I hate it so much. I thought it was pronounced that way. Dr. Schaefer frowned. Oh, you thought 8 things tonight. Swords laughed and rubbed his forehead. Oh god, there I go. That's an obscure one. I didn't expect you'd know the reference, but see, a meme is only as good as the amount of people that understand its context. Context is the key to unlocking these things. I learned about that goddamn thing by paying attention to the context. I talked to the people who were rotated out of working containment in here. I noticed the peculiar pattern in their speech. I deduced the rest. Schaefer raised his eyebrows. You'd never seen me before now? Swords just narrowed his eyes. I know enough about that goddamn thing to know this is a ridiculous waste of resources. Where is it right now? That old supply closet over there? That one has the fancy electric lock and the old faded fertilizer sign that was obviously recently added. All the other doors in this room are either sealed off or specifically go somewhere. Seriously pathetic misdirection there. Schaefer had heard enough. He stood up from his seat and gestured to the aforementioned door. Yes, that's where they keep me. Would you like a walk at the room? Perhaps you have learned so much about me, you can offer some insight into future containment procedures. The 2 men strode toward the old closet, which Schaefer opened with a wave of his unique keypad. Schaefer picked up a clipboard from the reverse side of the door and read the introductory language that had been carefully prepared to make otherwise straightforward containment procedures sensible. Schaefer cleared his throat and recited the lines he had spoken only a few times before, when he was first assigned to security for this containment chamber, and during scheduled testing. Hello, I am SCP-426. I must be introduced this way in order to prevent ambiguity. I'm an ordinary toaster, able to toast bread when supplied with electricity. However, when any human being mentions me, they inadvertently refer to me as in the first person. Despite all attempts, there is yet to be a way to speak or write about me in the third person. Swords made a derisive sound and waved toward the object sitting on the middle of a shelf in the otherwise empty closet. That goddamn thing. That goddamn thing is a goddamn toaster. No one else has ever been able to refer to me in that way before, Dr. Swords. How did you do it? Your file said you had a talent for diffusing mimetic facts. That goddamn toaster is not a meme. It's a goddamn toaster. Swords snatched the containment papers from Schaefer's hands and read through them with a scowl. We have no cultural references to that goddamn toaster. People who never heard about that goddamn toaster referred to it as if it was themselves. Memetics has absolutely no application here. Maybe I'm the normal one, and you are all just goddamn idiots. I notice that you have great difficulty referring to me. When you do, you only do so to damn me, to speak of me derisively. Do you suppose that in your intense dislike of me that allows you to avoid my effect? I can't say that goddamn toaster had no effect on me. Sure, it's hard for me. That's me, as in Johannes. I can use that word properly to talk about that goddamn toaster any way I want. Clearly, the mere concept of that goddamn toaster has the property of defining itself in the psyche of the individual who thinks of it. It's a glitch in logic. Where can you only refer to that goddamn toaster as yourself? I choose to refer to it as the... Yes, I get the picture, Dr. Swords. Are you aware of any of my secondary properties? I don't care about your goddamn properties, secondary, tertiary, or otherwise. Swords flipped through the attached test logs. You're doing a piss poor job of containing that goddamn toaster, though. I tell you what, I could keep this goddamn thing in a box under my desk and do a better job. I sure wouldn't start thinking of myself as a goddamn toaster. I'm not replacing my concept of self with it. Schaefer hadn't thought much of the pudgy doctor before he started ranting, and had to fight to keep his voice level when he replied, Doctor, please calm down. You're becoming very agitated. This presents a unique opportunity for us to work together, to do some tests regarding our interactions and your ability to avoid my effect. I don't want to work with a goddamn toaster. Swords hung the clipboard back up on the door and reached for the handle. Schaefer put a hand on the doctor's arm. I meant me. I want you to work with me. Swords whirled upon the agent with a furious grunt, shoving the larger man square in the chest with all his might. That goddamn toaster should just stay locked up. I'm clearly not immune to the influence of that goddamn toaster. I don't want to have anything to do with that goddamn... Schaefer stumbled backwards for a moment, but regained control of the situation and his training. As his training took over, he redirected the smaller man's momentum and whirled the doctor face first into one of the closet's bare walls with a metallic clank. That's quite enough, Dr. Swords. You don't really have a choice in the matter. The agent leaned in and growled with a sharp twist of the doctor's arm. Do you really want to do this? Swords rolled his eyes back up to Schaefer over his shoulder. All right. His words were slurred by the way his lips were rammed against the dirty wall. I'm sorry. I get the picture. Okay, I'm going to let you go now. You're going to deal with me like a rational adult. Schaefer released the doctor and took a step back, running his hands down the front of his black uniform. Something tickled the back of his mind. Perhaps it was the way Swords' eyes cleared of panic too quickly, or perhaps it was the absence of a familiar weight at his hip. Swords whirled around, revealing the pistol he had yanked out of the agent's belt on his short trip to kiss the wall. Schaefer stepped forward and put out his hands, but the doctor slid away, keeping himself out of reach. Swords held the pistol low, aiming at the agent's unprotected groin and legs. Dr. Swords, that is my sidearm. Listen to you. It can't have a sidearm. It's a goddamn toaster. Beads of sweat were thick on the doctor's brow. You're talking crazy because you can't tell the difference between you and a stupid inanimate object. That goddamn toaster needs to stay in here, and it would be better if everyone forgot about it. If you do not stand down and return my sidearm immediately. The toaster hit the ground after 2 shots, and the doctor kicked it into the corner of the closet for good measure. After using Schaefer's key card to lock the door to the goddamn toaster's containment chamber behind him, Swords dropped the pistol into the pocket of his coat and wiped his brow. Taking a deep breath, he strode out of the empty storehouse past the ever-present security cameras, and returned to his office to file a report on the incident. Hello, Kruka Gamer. How are you? That was kind of silly. Alright. This one's called the coffee machine. That's so weird because in the picture I've seen that kind of coffee machine. There are no standard special containment procedures on file for item SCP-294. However, only personnel of security clearance level 2 or higher are allowed to interact with it. SCP-294 is currently being stored in the second floor personnel break room and is monitored by 2 guards of security clearance level 3 at all times. Item SCP-294 appears to be a standard coffee vending machine, the only noticeable difference being an entry touchpad with buttons corresponding to an English keyboard. Upon depositing 50 cents US currency into the coin slot, the user is prompted to enter the name of any liquid using the touchpad. Upon doing so, a standard 12-ounce paper drinking cup is placed and the liquid indicated is poured. 97 initial test runs were performed, including requests for water, coffee, beer, and soda, non-consumable liquids such as sulfuric acid, wiper fluid, and motor oil, as well as substances that do not usually exist in a liquid state, such as nitrogen, iron, and glass, and each one returned as success. Test runs with solid materials such as diamond have failed. However, it appears that SCP-294 can only deliver substances that can exist in a liquid state. It is of note that after approximately 50 uses, the machine would not respond to further requests. After a period of approximately 90 minutes, the machine seemed to have restocked itself. It is also interesting to note that many caustic liquids would have eaten through a normal paper cup seem to have no effect on the cups dispensed by the machine. Testing is ongoing. As suggested, SCP-294 was moved to the second floor personnel break room as a money-saving venture. Following Incident 294-1, guards were stationed at the item and a security clearance became necessary to interact with it. On August 21st, 2005, Agent Joseph attempted to use item SCP-294 to obtain coffee during his allotted break time at 9:30 a.m. At the request of Agent Blank to see what it would do, he requested a cup of joe from the item. Moments after confirming the selection, Agent Joseph began to sweat profusely and complained of dizziness before collapsing. After moving the unconscious agent to the infirmary, the medical team recovered the contents of the cup dispensed by item SCP-294, a combination of blood, tissue, and other bodily fluids. Testing revealed the DNA sequence of the biological material dispensed by SCP-294 matched that of Agent Joseph. Agent Joseph made a complete recovery after 4 weeks of rest and intravenous hydration. X-rays and CAT scans showed no further signs of injury, and Joseph was released. Both agents were reprimanded. Additional security measures for SCP-294 have been recommended. After reviewing documentation of SCP-294, they suggested testing SCP-294's ability to retrieve specific liquids from a distance. With the overseeing of O5 data expunge, a cup of SCP-75 secretion was used as input. The product was proven to be the requested liquid, and the cup was able to successfully contain the material. However, the report for Incident 75-7 was acknowledged 2 hours after the test. See the addendum. A containment procedure breach had occurred exactly the same time this test was taking place, waking SCP-75 to its active stage. It was able to secrete an amount of basic solution equal to the capacity of a coffee cup before an emergency containment procedure was applied. and it was rendered passive. The liquid was not found in the post-incident investigation. Researcher punched in request for cup of gold. The machine dispensed a cup of molten gold. Researcher requested similar precious materials with the same result. Researcher punched in a safe range request for a cup of anti-water. The machine hummed briefly, then displayed out of range on entry pad. It is theorized that SCP-294 has a limited range of collection and cannot reach into alternate universes and dimensions. Researcher punched in request for diamond. SCP-294 briefly hummed and then displayed out of range on entry pad. SCP-294 gives this result for all solid substances. As diamond is a solid crystalline form of carbon, it appears the machine will not dispense liquid carbon, as this does not result in a diamond. When a cup of carbon was subsequently punched in, the machine dispensed a cup of liquid carbon. SCP-294 was immune to the damaging effects of the dispensed liquid. Testing for range of SCP-294's capacity for retrieval has been initiated. A unique compound has been formulated, composed of undisclosed ratios of Clorox brand bleach and Coca-Cola brand Coda, Met RX powder, and garam masala. The fluid was created and placed in a sealed container 25 meters away from SCP-294. When requested, the fluid was dispensed. An equal amount of the mixture was no longer present in its original container. Researcher, under observation of level 4 personnel, keyed in a request of the best drink I've ever had. SCP-294 dispensed a fluid similar in appearance to Coca-Cola. Researcher identified it as a mixed drink he recalls having at a bar during his bachelor party, was convinced it was the best drink. He did not know what ingredients were in the drink besides rum and cola. Further tests are scheduled to ascertain how SCP-294 gathers information. Under the same conditions, the agent, the best drink I've ever had, SCP-294 delivered a dark fluid topped with white foam, which was later identified as Vienna Lager. The cup was printed with a color picture of 5 men and 2 women drinking beer on the beach. The agent was one of them. In his briefing, the agent confirmed that his favorite drink ever was a Vienna Lager he consumed at the beach with his friends. It has now been confirmed that SCP-294 has the ability to directly gather information from someone's mind in order to comply with the given conditions. Subject keyed the perfect drink. The machine dispensed a cup containing an odorless lavender liquid. After drinking the liquid, subject appeared to go into shock. Subject later committed suicide, leaving a note which read, "I'm sorry, but at this point everything's just one big letdown. Requesting such a drink again is highly discouraged. None of the components of the drink have yet been identified." Subject keyed in something Cassie will like. The device was heard to hum for about 3 seconds before dispensing an empty cup. Printed on the side of the cup was an image of a traditional soda fountain glass filled with something brown and topped with whipped cream. Upon introduction to SCP-85, it was identified as a chocolate banana milkshake and judged delicious. Researcher keyed in a request for a cup of music. SCP-294 produced a clear, sparkling fluid that tasted vaguely alcoholic. Following ingestion, subject reported feeling and not hearing a continuous rhythm and demonstrated the ability to move and even dance with a certain fluidity that he had not previously shown. Testing on other abstract concepts is continuing. During a mass security breach, the agent requested a cup of pertinent medical knowledge while taking shelter inside the second-floor break room. Of the 4 agents in the room, the agent was the only one who was not injured. SCP-294 poured a cup of clear green liquid. Following the ingestion of this substance, the agent began mending other agents' wounds in a manner consistent with Foundation medical training. The agent no longer has the medical training that the liquid provided, and other attempts to recreate the effect have failed. The agent was The agent has speculated that this event was an emergency measure taken by the object to ensure self-preservation. The doctor requested my life story from SCP-294. SCP-294 made humming noises and shook violently for approximately 3 minutes before providing a highly viscous, opaque black liquid. Upon consumption, the doctor reported that he remembered everything that had ever happened to him. Following this test, the doctor entered his office and returned 48 hours later with a 538-page autobiography. Researcher produced request consisting solely of the phrase "surprise me." Device produced an opaque cup containing normal water, later determined to have been heated to approximately 200 degrees Celsius. Upon receiving vibration from transport, the contents of the cup turned into steam, violently spraying boiling water in a 2-meter radius. The researcher produced request for blood of Christ. SCP-294 vibrated and produced the message "Hic es inum calix sangui me," then produced a paper drinking cup containing approximately 0.12 liters of red grape wine. Researcher produced requests for a cup of simulodin blood, cup of passenger pigeon blood, and cup of Thomas Jefferson's blood, and received 3 out-of-range error. A D-class personnel with IQ of 99 and low curiosity scores was given written instructions about what to request. The D-class personnel produced a request for blood of Canis lupus and received a cup of liquid subsequently identified as wolf blood. The D-class personnel next produced a request for saliva of Equus ferus cavillus and received a cup of liquid subsequently identified as horse saliva. The D-class personnel next produced a request for urine Phascolarctos cinerus and received a cup of liquid subsequently identified as koala urine. The D-class personnel next produced a request for cerebrospinal fluid of Vibromus pattersoni and received a cup of liquid currently undergoing analysis. It is to be noted that Vibromus pattersoni went extinct during the late Miocene epoch, with approximately 8 million years ago. Dr. King produced a request for a cup of room temperature superconductor and received a cup of apple juice with seeds floating in it. Dr. Minshew produced requests for a cup of D151839's leukemia and received a cup of fluid. The fluid was microscopically examined and found to contain leukemic blast cells, which were a genetic match to D151839. A subsequent request for a cup of D151839's leukemia resulted in an out-of-range error. D151839 was subsequently found to be free of leukemia, however, within 15 days, leukemia had occurred. Wow. Kind of gross. Alright. Tater tots. That's what they give us for lunch. Tater tots. Dr. Howard Breaker looked down at the brownish nuggets on his plate, and alongside the chicken patty sandwich with its flimsy pickles and watery ketchup next to the rubbery macaroni and cheese. The pudding, however, was unblemished by the evils of cafeteria cost-cutting, for now at least. Since when is the foundation in elementary school? Taking his tray with him, Dr. Breaker set off aimlessly into the sea of cafeteria tables and hungry researchers. Breaker was black, in his mid-50s, with thinning salt and pepper hair and an unobtrusive mustache. He was a reasonably large man in both height and width, though his college football days were long behind him, and a gym membership forced upon him by his wife was in his discernible future. Breaker sat down at the end of one of the long metal tables at the less occupied corner of the cafeteria. He wasn't in the mood for socializing with large numbers of people. The researcher took a bite of patchily cooked chicken sandwich. "Hey there, Breaker." Breaker looked up to see Dr. Ryan Melbourne standing on the opposite side of the table, holding a tray of similar low-grade foodstuffs. Melbourne was tall and lanky, around 30 years of age, with a bushy head of sandy hair, a scar on his chin, and a good tan from his recent Caribbean vacation. He had rolled up his shirt sleeve, revealing the tattoo of Chinese lettering on the inside of his right arm. The phrase translated into English as, "Are you expecting something profound?" "Hey, Breaker." "Hey, Breaker," said flatly as the younger doctor sat down. "Haven't seen you around recently." "Yeah, the department's been in a fuss all week. The supervisor's worried about a pneumatic hazard outbreak, so she's been having us checked 4 times a day." "What happened? And why did I not hear about this?" 3 researchers all acted exactly the same during the monthly psychological review, started singing a bastardized version of the Immigrant Song, with a very interesting use of the word defenestrate, among other things. And who were the researchers? Breaker could see where this story was going. Dr. Jameson, Ulrich, and Ferrier. Breaker slapped the table and laughed. "I knew it! I saw that one coming a mile away. It's a miracle they haven't been demoted to D class by now. They can't go a week without getting Supervisor Brisket's panties in a bunch. In more ways than one." "True that." Melbourne swallowed a forkful of macaroni. "Moving to a completely different subject, I have $50 riding on a bet, and I need an answer from you." Breaker sighed. Melbourne's gambling habit was the bane of everyone who knew him, as he would inevitably ask them for a bailout. Unfortunately, the doctor could see no applicable escape routes from the cafeteria. "Go ahead," he said, dreading what came next. "Okay, let's say, hypothetically, that 8 broke containment. Widespread infection, no chance of containment. What do you do?" Breaker didn't expect something so serious. "Lock down the facility, switch to backup generators, use drones to recon the situation outside. If it's truly an XC or XK class scenario, we will fall back to basics. Our facilities can be easily defended. We have food, weapons, water, and medical supplies already. If we're in for the long haul, we'll ration and improvise as necessary. If there are any SCPs that would cause a danger to us or a drain on limited resources, we destroy them. All the others we use to our advantage." Melbourne smiled. "By the book, I'll count that as a zombie plan. They said you didn't have one. That's $50 in my pocket right there." "A zombie plan? That's what you call it? Or an SCP-8 contingency plan if you want." "I really don't care, actually." Breaker went back to his sandwich. "Aw, come on, ask me." "Fine," he glared at the other researcher. "What's your zombie plan?" "You're doing it wrong. Ask me something different." Breaker stroked his chin. "Okay, you're stuck in a room with 173. I believe not blinking is the first order of business. So long as I can keep one eye open, I'll run backwards out the emergency exit and do it fast." "Fair enough. That's really the only thing to do. My turn." 705 takes over the break room. "Are you kidding? They wouldn't stand a chance against my 5-year-old nephew." "Send him in. It would be hilarious. Maybe we can introduce him to 387 afterwards." "Don't let the administration hear that one. 239 wakes up and decides she's not too fond of us. Flee to Canada." Breaker gave Melbourne, "You're not taking this seriously, I take it, look." What? You're the serious one, not me. 55 breaks containment. What? Exactly. Whatever, we don't even have a 55. I don't think. Mass outbreak of 217. Melbourne crossed his arms and put on an irked face. Expecting me to say something stupid like, wait for rights to have another kid, right? Well, you're wrong, and your idea is stupid. Pick something that we haven't already dealt with. Fine. How do you like this one? Video of 597 gets on the internet. Oh my god, Melbourne's eyes went wide. Do you even know what you suggest? You're probably going to tell me. Damn right I am. Look, the most hormone-crazed guys only know the philosophy of more boobs. The revelation that there is such a thing as too much boobs would send the net into spiraling anarchy followed by implosion. That's... You know what? I'm not going to say anything. It's for the best. There was an awkward pause. 804 starts spinning out of control, Breaker said. Try to remember my Boy Scout training? Either that or smash it with a rock. I don't know. You're supposed to be having fun with this, and you're definitely not having fun with this. Look, here's how you do it. 231-7 gives birth, coinciding with 682 breaking containment. 76-2, turning against the Foundation. And something super bad coming out of 354. The combined sum of these causes a containment breach on almost every other Keter level item we have. With Melbourne's trump card played, Breaker was silent. Nearly half a minute passed. The researcher, not moving more than a twitch, and a smug smile spread across his face. You're smiling like that again, Breaker. Melbourne pointed his fork at him. Good things do not happen when you have that smile. That's the easiest one yet. How so? Suicide's against the rules. Still easy. First, I activate the emergency termination protocol for the D-class barracks. Then I run in there and apply 447 on each and every dead body in there. Melbourne's expression was priceless. What the fuck is that supposed to do? Well, since things really couldn't get any worse, the normally catastrophic effect of letting 447 near so many dead bodies will cancel everything else out. Breaker stood up, taking his empty tray with him. Or it'd just destroy the universe. Either way, it'd be an improvement. I believe that is game over, my friend. I think the tales are more about the Foundation itself. Alright, we have one called The Clockworks. Only personnel who submit a formal request and receive approval from Site Command may operate 914. SCP-914 is to be kept in Research Cell 109B with 2 guard personnel on duty at all times. Any researchers entering 109B are to be accompanied by at least 1 guard for the entirety of testing. A full list of tests to be carried out must be given to all guard personnel on duty. Any deviation from this list will result in termination of testing, forcible removal of personnel from 109B, and formal discipline at Site Command's discretion. At this time, no testing of biological matter is allowed. Refer to document 109B-117, applying the rough setting to explosive materials is not advised. SCP-914 is a large clockwork device weighing several tons and covering an area of 18 square meters, consisting of screw drives, belts, pulleys, gears, springs, and other clockwork. It is incredibly complex, consisting of over 8 million parts, comprised mostly of tin and copper, with some wooden and cloth items observed. Observation and probing have showed no electronic assemblies or any other form of power other than the mainspring under the selection panel. Two large booths, 10 feet by 7 feet by 7 feet, are connected via copper tubes to the main body of SCP-419, labeled Intake and Output. Between them is a copper panel with a large knob with a small arrow attached. The words rough, coarse, 1 by 1, fine, and very fine are positioned at points around the knob. Below the knob is a large key that winds the mainspring. When an object is placed in the intake booth, a door slides shut and a small bell sounds. If the knob is turned to any position and the key wound up, SCP-914 will refine the object in the booth. No energy is lost in the process, and the object appears to be in stasis until the output booth door is open. Intense observation and testing have not shown how SCP-914 accomplishes this, and no test subject has ever been observed inside SCP-914 during the refining process. The process takes between 5 and 10 minutes, depending on the size of the object being refined. Right. And here's... okay. Here's a fuse test. Input 1 kilogram of steel setting rough. Pile steel chunks of varying size, appearing to be cut by laser. Input 1 kilogram of steel, setting 1 by 1. Thank you. Thank you, Mario. Yeah, I don't really want to read this list. Basically, it sounds like it sands people down. Jeez. So this is like a multi-part tale. Mess found in a beach house. Telling me I live in a world where silly fucks don't let their own children receive medication because some asshat on a talk show told them not to. And you want to know how my day's going? Let me tell ya. No, thanks. I can't drink anymore. Heart condition. Let me tell ya. The guy on my left keeps talking to the woman across from me as I order a can of ginger ale from a flight attendant with an enormous nose. It's the 3rd hour of a 7-hour flight, and I already want to just jump. The attendant gives me a can and cup of ice and moves on before I can ask for a napkin, which I suppose is just par for the course. My name is Steven, and I am a commercial writer bound for Shanghai from San Diego. I'm writing all this down to keep myself amused on my journey. If it comes out entertaining, I may pass it on as a travelogue to some magazine and make a few bucks. So far, though, it looks like the chances of anything interesting happening are. Adrift at sea on an airline life raft. This is the sort of shit you see in movies. I never expected it to happen to me. While it's fresh in my mind, I'll write out what happened. I'd just gotten my drink when the front half of the plane disappeared. I know that sounds crazy. It is crazy. But that's what happened. I fucking saw it. I was in seat 23B. Everything beyond 2 rows ahead of me just vanished with a rush of exploding pressurized air, leaving a yawning view of empty blue sky that tilted all too fast into approaching clouds and the howling rush of free fall. From the looks of the spray of blood I glimpsed before I passed out, the whole row's legs went with it, like they'd been cut by God's own invisible scalpel. I instinctively rammed my notebook back into my briefcase and like a moron started to raise the tray table when the lack of oxygen and adrenaline put me to sleep. broke to impact as what remained of the plane hit the water and threw me hard into the seat in front of me. I had just enough time to gulp for air before the water rushed over me to fill the cabin. I don't know who thought to pull the raft and toss it out of the plane, but I hope that crazy bastard got a hero's welcome in heaven. It was floating there waiting when I surfaced, briefcase death gripped in my hand. I flicked it right side up and clambered onto it. That's when I blacked out for the second time. Eventually, one of the other survivors woke me up. There's 7 of us. The one who's at the front of the raft says there's a small island ahead, and we're moving toward it. But it's going twilight now, and we may miss it in the dark. I hope we don't miss it. We reach the island. There's a house there. This place is weird as shit. I realize that's not exactly elucidating, but hell, it's looking less and less like anyone is ever going to read this anyhow. My name is Steven. I'm a commercial writer. Yesterday I got on a plane bound for Shanghai. Somewhere over the ocean, the front half of the plane fucking disappeared. 6 others and I wound up on a life raft heading for an island, reaching the place just as night fell. This place is weird as shit. Last night, all we really thought about was the house. We knocked, not really expecting an answer from such a deserted-looking place, and then smashed the window on the front door and let ourselves in. Immediately, I headed for a small couch in the entryway and collapsed. This morning, one of the other guys woke me up with a cup of coffee. It was the best damn cup of coffee I ever had. His name's Tim. He's an accountant for some firm of San Francisco. He was in the row behind me, apparently. He says the others are a construction guy named Marcus, a banker named William, and his wife Marie, their 6-year-old son, Evan, and a girl named Marjorie who apparently knows a lot about cars. Whatever. Anyway, they'd been scouting out the island, so I went out to join them. The place is, as I mentioned, weird as shit. The house is the only structure on it except for a single telephone pole, with one end of its lines connected to the house, and the other dangling brokenly across the concrete driveway leading away from it, and ending just after 40 feet or so at a cliff so straight it may as well have been cut with a razor. My best guess is they moor some kind of barge here, or something, and connect it to the house. Or maybe there used to be some kind of pier, no telling. That weird straight edge forms that entire side of the island, so that the whole thing forms a wonky oblong with a flat edge at one end like an unrolled condom. On the other side of the house is a perfectly manicured lawn, complete with a little ornamental garden and a rope swing setup. There's a small dock too, with a canoe moored at it. Marcus thinks the canoe means there's more land nearby. It's tough to prove him wrong with all the fog that surrounds the island. He wants to row out and see what he can find. Most of the others are against it, but I figure we're obviously close enough to civilization. Someone is going to find us soon enough anyway. And there's no harm letting him try. Hell, I'll help him shove off if he needs it. The house itself looks like the sort of condo you'd find in a seaside town pretty much anywhere, with a vaguely Edwardian cast to its architecture. Lots of wood and such like. It's set up with modern appliances and light, but there's no power at all. I guess the power came from the same place as the phone. Tim says the fridge was mostly empty, but for half a gallon of rotten milk and some cheese that was just starting to go moldy from the warmth. That's a good sign. It means that someone was here recently enough for the cheese to have just gone bad. The question is, when will they return? Marcus is gone. The canoe is gone too, so we're assuming he took it while no one was looking. There's not a sign of him anywhere, though Evan keeps claiming he can hear Marcus yelling. He's just a kid and he wants to help. I don't blame him for pretending. Tim found one of the canoe's paddles washed ashore a short way from the dock. Not a good sign. Still, it's too early to worry, isn't it? I found a gun in one of the cabinets while rooting through the house. It's loaded. I have it shoved into the waistband of my pants now. Not sure whether I want to tell the others. I'll hold off for now, just in case. If help arrives, keeping it secret will have done no harm. And if it doesn't, well, better I have it than anyone else, I think. Marjorie's screaming. Evan is dead. Marjorie found him hanging from the tire swing's rope. with a weird symbol drawn on his back. It looked like some kind of voodoo thing, like witch doctors draw in the dust in shitty horror flicks. It was drawn in blood, but he didn't have a scratch on him, and for some reason that just makes it worse. I'm really glad I didn't tell anyone about the gun. William thinks it was Marcus, that he's hiding on the island somewhere, that the canoe thing was just a fake to let him disappear. I don't know, he seemed like a pretty okay guy to me. Marjorie's curled in a ball on the couch now, crying her eyes out. Tim is with her, trying to help. He found some candles in one of the drawers, so tonight we'll probably do some kind of funeral. Evan's body is in the entryway, wrapped in the deflated raft from the plane. He was a cute kid. This is fucked up. All afternoon, I sat at the end of the driveway, thinking about how the front half of the plane was just gone, with a perfectly straight edge, exactly like the cliff. It seems crazy, but I'm beginning to wonder. Probably best to push that thought aside. We've already got a maniac to deal with. I just finished Evan's funeral, for what it's worth. We buried him out in the garden by the swing and tried not to think about the fact that he'd been killed there. Everybody said a few words, just mumbling compliments mostly. It's not like any of us knew him well enough to have anything real to say. Hopefully, once we're rescued, he can get a real proper burial with a real funeral back in civilization. Marjorie hasn't stopped crying since she found him. She keeps saying something about the symbol and her brother and trailing off. I'd write more about it, but she's honestly pretty tough to understand. And I think she's just raving anyhow. Marie seems to think she knows more about what happened than she's told us. The whole time we were in the garden, she was staring at Marjorie, glaring, while the candlelight flickered off a black eye. I'm not entirely certain I believe she got in the crash. William smoked non-stop the whole time, burning through all the cigarettes he had like there was a prize at the bottom of the pack. He was the only one at the service not holding a candle in the glowing darkness. Marjorie was the only one crying. I can't help but begin to form some opinions of my own. After the burial, we all went our separate ways for a while except Marjorie and Tim. I retreated to one of the bedrooms of the house and sat for a while reading a trashy paperback I found on a shelf by the light of an emergency glow stick from the raft. I must have gotten 2 or 3 chapters in, damned if I can say what it was about, or even what the title was. We were all on autopilot, I think, still reeling from the 1-2 punch dealt to us by fucked up fate. Eventually I gave up on the book and just started writing. I don't know what happened to Evan, but I have a feeling something's going to go down between William and Marie, or between Marie and Marjorie. William seems to have focused on Marcus. That's a good thing. If Marcus isn't here, it can't get violent. Marjorie was the first one to find the body, but I don't think she could kill a kid. Tim was on the other end of the island, sitting on the front porch of the house. I could see him, and he could see me, so nobody suspects us. I don't get the impression on Marie's suspicion as fate, which leaves William. Could he be faking his rage at Marcus to cover up a murder? Why the fuck would he kill his own son? I don't want to believe that. What did happen to Marcus anyway? Regardless, I'm keeping this gun with me at all times from now on. It all happened so fast. It's just beginning to hit me that only a few days ago a massive plane crash left me stranded with just a few other survivors on an island. And that in those few days one of us has gone missing, and another, a child for Pete's sake, has been murdered. This is crazy. I need to be alone. I've come up to the bedroom and shoved the bookcase against the door. The others seem to understand that I wanted to be left to myself for a while. I'm going to lie down and get some sleep. Maybe when I wake up this bullshit will have sorted itself out. Oh geez. There's some crossed out words. I don't remember writing any of this. This isn't my handwriting. Someone is knocking on the door. I'll figure this out later. Well, it's just me and Tim now. Everyone is gone. He came up to tell me. William and Marie dug up Evan's body, took the life raft, and left. We're alone on the upside that this means more food for us. I'm still hoping someone will come along and find us here. I want to know more about who owns this place and why it's so strange. Is the cliff really some sort of pier, or is it something stranger? I can't help thinking about how the front half of the plane just vanished, how the scene was so straight and perfect, how it looked just like the cliff at the end of the island Tim is sitting on, dangling his feet over the water as he fishes to kill time. Perfectly straight edges. I think I'm beginning to understand. In a scary science fiction sort of way, it makes sense. It's impossible, but I think I understand. Alright. Document 1057E was discovered in the upper floor bedroom of a beachside rental home on the peninsula at Redacted. The site was brought to the attention of the Foundation by a caretaker, who arrived to mow the lawn to find a male corpse, minus the legs, and with it the arms removed just below the elbows, lying in the middle of the driveway. Study of this document, as well as Redacted, identifies the body of Timothy Zwicky, who has been missing since the loss of the flight out of San Diego in March of. Neighbors report not seeing anyone enter or leave the house since the caretaker's last visit. Note that the house is not, nor has it ever been, located on an island. The cliff described in this account does not exist. The body of a woman identified as Marjorie Minigio, also listed as missing following the disappearance of the flight, was found in the house. Cause of death appears to be multiple gunshot wounds to the head and body. Of particular interest to the Foundation was the fact that no passenger named Stephen is listed on the flight's manifest. No other person were found in the house, and the identity of this document's author is currently unknown. This case is open for all researchers with interest in contributing to both evidence gathering and analysis. Personnel who wish to assist should contact Dr. Van Huysen and requisition documents. Very odd. So this is another series. It's called The Lombardi Tales. This one's the urban legends. Don't talk to me about no fucking urban legends. Jesus, in our line of work, you'd think you'd know better. What do you mean? I mean, they ain't just fucking stories, dipshit. Oh, fine, some of them are. I mean, sure, no gangbanger's gonna shoot you just cause you flashed your headlight. But a lot of them ain't. Why don't nobody hear about them? Why don't they hear about no fucking skips? We ain't the only ones dancing in this here party, you know? No, I ain't full of shit. Look, I'll tell you how I know they're real. Okay, so this was a while back. I was out hunting elves in Jersey. What? They was short, had pointy ears and squeaky voices. That's good enough for me. Were they really elves? Probably not. Sure as hell didn't bake no cookies. Do I give a shit what they're really called? No, I do not. Anyway, don't interrupt. So I'm off duty, having finished up for the day. I go drinking at a drive-in in the bad side of town. Reminds me of home, right? So there's this broad. She's cute. So I buy her a drink. One thing leads to another, and I go back to her place. No, it ain't professional, but what the fuck do you care what I do in my fucking off time, Jesus? So we have some drinks, make some small talk, and I suddenly find myself crashing harder and Buddy Holly and the Big Bopper. Yeah, you see where I'm going with this. Thing is, the bit where you wake up in a bathtub with ice, yeah, that's bullshit. They're your fucking kidneys. They're taking your fucking kidneys. The fuck do they care where if you live? You're just some random fuck who can point him out in a lineup. Best if you don't ever turn up. Yeah, I'm still alive. Thanks for noticing. You might also notice something they didn't account for. Proper like. I'm a big fucking guy. 300 pounds, hair under 7 foot. There's a whole fucking lot of me. And it takes a lot to take me down. And even more to keep me down. I wake up with this real bad pain in my side. I open my eyes and there's this fuck with a scalpel opening me up. I put a stop to that really fucking quick. Believe me, I was a bit woozy, but I'm a trained Foundation agent. They was a bunch of amateurs. It went down about how you'd expect. So don't talk to me about no fucking urban legends. Anyway, keep your eyes open. This fucker with the hook's gotta show up sometime. That's a good one. Alright. I'm like reading the, like imagining these in Tony Soprano's voice. It's pretty funny. Let me tell you about reality benders. First off, we like to call them Bixby's. Why? One, in case somebody accidentally says something in front of a civilian, it don't tip them off. Two, if you're talking to a reality bender, they might not know all they can do, and you don't want to give them any ideas. These fuckers are dangerous. You see one, you don't engage unless you absolutely have to. If you do have to, be polite. Try to think happy thoughts. Maybe you'll have a good day. Probably not. Whatever you can, let the experts deal with them. We don't try containing them. Most of the time. Yeah, Foundation don't usually work that way. But we like to have a world to live in. So on this point, we usually agree with the GOC. Better they're gone. Okay, so you're fighting somebody who can do pretty much anything. How do you stop them? Well, first off, they can't do anything they thought of. Like, they can maybe all read minds, but if they ain't thought about doing it, don't know they can, then they're not going to try it. Remember, they're not smarter than you. They may be able to do things different, might know things you don't, but they're not smarter. Second, they gotta concentrate. We had one asshole, he decided he was gonna know about everybody watching him. Fucker killed 20 of us before we just had a bunch of us rush him. Couldn't get all of us, you know? Which kind of Bixby's are worst? Depends how you mean. For my money, it's a kid Bixby. Almost always ends with a bullet. Sniper can usually take him out pretty easy. But actually killing him? You show me a guy who just shot a 3-year-old. I show you somebody with some damage upstairs. There are worse things you'll do for the Foundation, but not a lot. Now, hardest to take down? Usually somebody around late teens, early 20s. Much younger. They don't know enough to do as much harm. Older than that, and they don't got much flexibility in their thinking to try anything real out there. Late teens, early 20s, they're gonna experiment. They're gonna try anything that springs to mind. They're not gonna be slow and careful in figuring out what they can do. We get one of them, we pull out the big guns. Now, it doesn't always end with us killing them. Sometimes, especially older ones, we can talk with them a little, convince them the world ain't worth it, get them to move on somewhere else. A lot of them will even do it on their own. So far, ain't one of them ever come back. No one knows what. No one knows just why. Maybe this world really is that much of a shithole. Or maybe something's eating them. I don't know. Anyway, now you see what I mean when I say a giant turtle ain't no big deal. Even if it's spitting fire at us. Property value? I'm real sorry about all of this. I knew we was in trouble as soon as Barnes shot your daughter. Oh hey, quit crying, she'll be fine. He's a lousy shot. Anyway, I'm real sorry about your dog. I mean, it did bite my leg, but I guess I wouldn't have done that if I hadn't been beating you with that lamp. Hey, good news there, lamp still works. Little duct tape. It'll be good as new. Those ropes too tight? Sorry, I'd loosen them, but we don't want you getting loose and trying to escape. There's been enough screw-ups tonight, don't you think? Guys, you should be pissed Guy you should be pissed at is your neighbor. Fucker switched the house numbers. Must have known we was on to him. You want to know what this is about? What the hell. Ain't like you'll remember any of this tomorrow. See, a few months ago, there were some murders. Yeah, you read about them. Skinned alive. That's a bunch of bullshit right there. You ever skin somebody alive? They wriggle everywhere. Oh, now look what you've done. Never throw up when you're gagged. Here, let me clear your mouth. Now you scream. We're gonna have to break another finger. Okay, there you go. That's right in the bucket. And now the gag goes back on and you still got 8 good fingers. See how that works? And just kidding about the finger. I'd just shove the gag back on. You suffer enough, you know? So where was I? Oh yeah, skinning people alive. Hard as hell. That bit was made up by the papers. Sounds a hell of a lot more exciting. Nah, he cut their throats first, then skinned them. Anyway, 20 years back, there was another case kind of like this, back east. There's a few folks who've talked about it, but they don't think there's a connection, on account the guy there was caught. But check this out. The fucker said he needed to eat the skin to live. How does he end up dying? Malnutrition, even though he gets 3 meals a day. So we look into it, and the guy had a kid who moved out here. Yeah, your neighbor. So we come in, do some checking up, and once we did, it became pretty clear he did it. Unfortunately, it looks like he got wind of us and skipped out. With a last little screw you in the bargain. So we got guys tearing up his place to figure out where he went. Oh, we'll find him, don't worry. He's sloppy. He'll screw up eventually. Anyway, get comfy. We got someone coming here who's gonna make you forget everything that happened. Tomorrow morning, this'll seem like it was a botched robbery. We'll even set you up to look like a hero. Saved your family. How's that? By the way, how's rent around here? Seems like a nice neighborhood. Well, shit. Yeah, I'd say you got the bastard. They don't get much more dead than that. Okay, calm down. You're not gonna get declassed. Breathe, kid. Here's what happened. You're not the one who shoved him off the building with a live grenade. You were doing your best to follow orders and take the bastard in alive. You were doing just fine, too. Until nobody killed him. Well, yeah, obviously someone killed him. I meant nobody. The person, or people, or whatever. You've heard of nobody, right? Yeah, that one. Does mysterious shit. Helps or hurts us. And then he disappears. He's the one who did it, understand? No, it's not exactly lying. Okay, so it's lying. But it's lying to cover your ass. Which is practically a moral obligation at this point. Look, you're new, so I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. Everybody wants things to be simple. They want the world to make sense, even the higher's up. Sure, they know the world's fucked up, but they want it fucked up in a way they understand. Things out here, in the field, they get messy. Sometimes we gotta do things they wouldn't understand, and sometimes we make honest mistakes. The higher-ups don't want to think that sort of thing happens. We're their hands and eyes. We go out, we fix problems for them. So far as they're concerned, we always do it the way they want it. Sometimes, maybe you end up needing help from outside. We all know the other guys in the GOC, or MC&D, or hell, even in the CI. We trade favors when we have to, but the higher-ups wouldn't understand it, and they'd fuck it all up. Or maybe they want us to take in something alive that turns your blood to fire by looking at you. And never mind how you're supposed to get it done. We do what we gotta do. We try to make the mission go through. Sometimes that means we gotta do things they wouldn't like. Sometimes it means we cut our losses. And then, when you write up the report, you gotta make everything nice and neat in a way the higher-ups understand. That's where nobody comes in. Everyone knows nobody does shit that doesn't make much sense. Sometimes he helps us, gives us information, works with us. Sometimes he comes in and fucks it up. The higher-ups, they understand about nobody. They don't like him, but they accept that he exists and that there's not much we can do about it. So when we write up these reports, he's real handy for tying up loose ends. At the end of the day, the mission gets done the best we can do it, and the higher-ups get a story they can swallow. So kid, you didn't do it. You tried to take the skip in alive, but nobody got in the way. Said some mysterious crap, I'll come up with that, and then left before we could stop him. Maybe jumped off the rooftop. He does shit like that after all. He's nobody. Is he real? I don't know, kid. Ask him yourself sometime. Going my way. Okay, so what happened is... No, sir, I would not lie to you. I will contain myself to the purely factual. Yes, sir. No, sir, the squid were factual. I have pictures. No, sir, there were no squid at the village. Anyway, we were waiting for the skip to show up when these gawk bastards showed up. Forgive my language, sir. I did not know you were sensitive, sir. I will try to be delicate in the future. Anyway, the gawks, they showed up. They were trying to be sneaky, but we spotted them pretty quick. Black is not a good camouflage color. I don't care if it's dark. You want some gray in there. Break up your outline. Of course, that was just before Johnson sneezed. Yes, sir. I'll make sure to mention it to him at his wake. I'm sure his widow will be appreciative of constructive criticism. There were a few shots fired, but no casualties then. Or in a way of a handshake. Yes, sir, I am aware that I do not have sufficient authority to initiate hostilities with a group of interests. You're just shooting at each other, you know, friendly-like. The GOT commander inquired as to the nature of our business here, and suggested it might be best if we left the disposition to the skip to them. I suggested that instead, it might be best if they find another skip to kill, as we have prior interest in the one expected to soon arrive. The conversation moved on, and he inquired as to the health and quality of my sexual partners. I responded with politely worded questions as to whether or not his mother had studied the field of animal husbandry, as he looked like someone with farming blood. The warmth and politeness we showed each other, sir, it will melt the cockles of your heart. Our palaverings ranged to many subjects that were not germane to this discussion. Therefore, I shall not speak of them further, except to mention that my men have a much larger vocabulary than what I would previously have credited them. They truly are a credit to the Foundation. It was after about 5 minutes of this that the windows started bleeding, and we realized that the skip was getting close. With nary a thought to our own safety, we assumed positions of maximum tacticality for the skip's expected entry, which were by great coincidence also mostly covered from the GOP's positions. Then we found out where our intelligence had fucked up yet again. I'm sorry, sir. I did not realize you were a SCP, an intelligence operative. I meant only that despite their great efforts, which surely involved many hours of hazardous duty behind a desk fighting paper cuts, they missed the fact that this fucker ate light. Excuse me again, sir. I mean, this fascinating and no doubt valuable specimen. Anyway, it had been pitch dark. The GOTs were apparently fully aware of this ability, a fact I mention only as a curiosity, what you might mention in your erstwhile colleagues in Intel. They had night vision goggles and seemed to feel they were fully equipped to deal with said skip. I can only speculate based on their screaming that they were not briefed in its vulnerability to silver. So, you know, some things are universal. Anyway, we started firing blindly in the direction of the noises. Yeah, I think we probably killed a few of them, but you didn't hear them. Trust me, I don't think they would have complained. After we did some cleanup and Puff pulled out, if the Goks pissed, well, they jumped into our op. They knew the risks, same as us. If it had gone a little different, we'd have been the ones scattered across Angola. And it wouldn't have been their faults neither. Excuse my French, sir, but shit happens. So who won in the end? Well, most of us didn't die, but we ended up terminating the skip. So, you know, call it a draw. Alright. It don't pay to get too close to anyone in our line of work. They tell you that all the time. You will, though. We're stupid like that. First time you're in real danger, you should be thinking, Gosh, I'm in a constant threat of my life. A relationship would be a distraction and not fair to the other person. Unfortunately, you're made for passing on your genes. First time you're in any real danger, every part of your body, every fiber of your being is going to say, I almost died, commenced having sex. This is because your body's an idiot. It thinks you're still a primitive human in the Great Rift Valley, and the danger it has in mind is a leopard coming to eat you. So it wants you to make a replacement fast. So you're probably going to ignore all this advice. You're going to find someone else. Maybe a cute girl you meet downtown, or God forbid another agent. You've seen the videos, you've heard the stories. You know how we can end up. Imagine that's someone you care about. Yeah, that's fun. Now the Foundation ain't gonna tell you you can't have a relationship. The higher-ups ain't that stupid. Never give an order. Wait, ain't gonna be followed. Instead, they send you to counseling. They hope you can change your mind. Hey, you know what they play in the counselor's lobby all the time? Old Yeller. Yeah, that's the subtlety and understanding we come to expect at the Foundation. But like I said, it doesn't do much good. You're probably going to do it anyway. I'm just hoping maybe one or two of you is smart enough to listen. The rest of you, though, are going to get busy. Maybe get married. Maybe have kids. Best case scenario, the stress of the job drives you to divorce. Worst case scenario, one of you had to put a bullet into the other one because it's the kindest thing left. God help you if you ever fall for a skip. Seriously, don't do that shit. Was I ever married? Yeah, once. Her name? I don't remember her name. They won't let me. I think she was beautiful. Welcome to your orientation. I am Agent Max Lombardi. I am your instructor on account that my leg is broken and someone in personnel hates me. Now you're here because the possibility exists that you're not jackasses and could be useful in the containment of anomalous items that are trying to kill you. So let's start with the basic mission. We are out to find weird shit and bring it back, and then to contain it. Your more scholarly colleagues are the ones who study it from behind bulletproof glass and bitch about how hard their job is. They are receiving a similar briefing in room 67. They got donuts and coffee in there, just in case you was hoping there might be some modicum of justice in this cold, uncaring bitch of a universe. Anyway, some of yous are going to be retrieval, like me, while others are going to be containment. You might even switch it around sometimes. Retrieval generally is preceded by investigation by Intel. Intel, who also have coffee and donuts, in case you were wondering how far the budget stretches, will go forth, find leads, gather facts, and then tell you sweet fuck all. On receipt of this dearth of information, you'll go out to exotic locales where you will be forbidden from stopping and having a drink or conversing with the locals that aren't trying to kill you. You will go to where Intel tells you whatever the fuck is. An agent is much higher on the food chain than you will go and talk to people for the purpose of figuring out what is going on. Do not envy this agent. Shit goes wrong. He's in the worst place possible. Anyway, once he gives the go-ahead, the rest of the team comes in and takes the skip out as quiet as possible. Skip, by the way, is what we call said anomalous entities. I'm sure I do not need to tell you where it comes from. Now, sometimes skips don't come along so quiet as we would like. I mean, sure, maybe it's a nice inanimate object that don't hurt no one, or some guy who don't even want to go around free if he's hurting someone. Most of the time it's something easy, but sometimes it's something that really don't want to come along quiet, and it has the means to enforce its wishes. So you apply stronger coercion. Ideally, Intel will have figured out what this skip can take, and you can proceed directly to enough firepower to knock it loopy. Ideally, we would have donuts and coffee. Since we usually go in knowing jack shit, you'll start off with your bare hands and work up from there. Now at a certain spot, it looks like you're gonna have to choose between catching the skip and coming home on your own 2 feet. Who here is willing to die rather than give up on the mission? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you 5 fail. Counter to what some dingbats will tell you. The latter is actually the preferred option. Capturing skips is the name of the game, but finding agents who can actually do the fucking job is hard, and you can always catch more skips later on. Your best option is to run the fuck away. That way, they can always send someone else in to get the fucker. If you can't, and it comes down to a life or limb decision, that's when you pull out your gun and shoot the fucker. If that don't work, you shoot it again, because 99 times out of 100, shooting will work if you do enough of it. This don't mean you got to leave to shoot anything that moves, because Ancient Lombardi told you so. You do it when you gotta. You aim to bring these things in whole and intact. But if that ain't gonna happen, the Foundation will settle for studying what's left. So them's the basics of retrieval. The rest of you are gonna be involved in containment. Now, containment is in some ways easier. You know where the skip is, and hopefully you got some ideas of what the damn thing does and how to stop it. However, there are some complications. First off, the skip might be watching you too, depending on how smart it is. That means it's got a better idea of what we can do. It gets out, it's got to know what the uniforms mean, and who's likely to be armed. It's also going to be pissed. Ideally, it is more pissed at the guys in white coats sticking needles into it, but it might remember that it was your buddies who rolled it up and brought it here. Also, unless you're at a single skip site, if it gets loot, it might let other shit out too, and suddenly you're dealing with 5 or 6 skips instead of just one. Now they might just start fighting amongst themselves, but you're gonna have to go in the middle of all that to break them up, and they just ain't gonna play along. Also, remember how I said most of the time retrieval is going after something harmless? Yeah, you don't get that luxury. Sure, some of the skips you're guarding are safe, but some of them will rip your head off and scoop out your brains. And you're around them every fucking day. This is especially true if you're at one of them single skip sites I mentioned, because they don't put them kind of resources to work to watch the fucking vending machine. So that's life as an agent for you? Questions? You, with the glasses and the turtleneck. How weird. Well, I once saw a guy have his bones turned into a jelly. Grape jelly. Yes, they did tests. They all came back grape. That weird enough? Guy with the buzz cut. Shoot, who decides what we go after? Generally, it'll be a site director in charge of retrieval. Ultimately, it goes up to the 5 council, but they're really more into general strategy than day-to-day operations. Okay, you with the messed up piercing. I don't know where this shit comes from. It's Intel's job to figure that shit out. Please refer back to my previous statements on Intel. Red shirt, 3rd row. Health benefits? They're great if you come back alive. We got the best doctors on the planet. If it's possible to get you back on your feet again, they'll do it. Yes, you in the back with the duck. The upside to the job? Well, for one thing, we get paid pretty good. For another, if we don't do the job, the world will probably end. That ain't a joke. Seriously, somebody has to do this job. Don't you want to live to see tomorrow? Good choice. Okay, Tubby, what's your question? How do you get in one of the groups with the coffee and donuts? You go fuck yourself, that's how. Okay, the skinny twerp with the goatee. Clef. He's a researcher / agent / I don't know what the fuck. Seriously, most of the stories you hear about him are bullshit. The rest are also bullshit, but maybe based on something that kind of happened once if you squint. In any case, you ain't Clef, so don't get any ideas. When you've been around a while, then you can start thinking about emulating him, except you'll be too smart to. Okay, the dame by the door. The monkey? That's Dr. Bright. He's harmless. That being said, you got a taser, he has genitalia, you do the math. So that concludes my briefing. Since you've been so good, I've arranged to get punch and cookies. Ain't as good as coffee and donuts, but hey, ours ain't full of laxatives. I think I'm gonna finish this series and then call it a night. Hey pal, nice costume. Yeah, I like the way it's just your face with a couple of strings attached. Okay, that's far enough. Yeah, it's a real piece. Why don't you just come along quiet? Why don't you come along quiet like? That's the ticket. Just over here, and we can have a little talk. So the reason I'm here is, stop that. It ain't gonna work. We had plenty of time to figure out what it was and you did, and we got it fixed for it. So you can just relax. You're collared, so you might as well find out who by. Anyway, the reason I'm here is that I'm part of a group that contains objects or people what are of an unusual nature. Yeah, like yourself. Sucks to be you, you know? Now you could try to run, but this gun will stop you before you get too far. Won't kill you, but you'll get a hell of a headache when you wake up. This drop a horse, and you weigh a hell of a lot less than a horse. So I came here to find out if the rumors were true, and there really was something here matching your description. We saw you a couple days ago, but I figured we'd see you out on the town tonight. I always liked Halloween. I could have any face I wanted. You got a face like mine, you look forward to wearing a mask. So I sympathize. Only time of the year you get to come out and mingle. Anyway, we just been waiting for you to come out where we could nab you. My partner's watching us, and pretty soon we'll go for a ride in our van to your new home. Ain't fair? Yeah, I know, I get that a lot, and you're right, it ain't. This were an ideal world, we could all live in peace. Unfortunately, you and me were born in a cold bastard of a universe that doesn't give a fuck about fairness or justice. All we got is the best we can do. Your ma? Sorry, kid, we can't go back to see her. I'll make sure to get someone to talk to her, so she don't worry too much. Honestly, she's probably not going to remember a whole lot of this. It's one of the things we do. But we'll make sure she's okay. You got my word. Hell, tell you what. We bring you in, we'll say you agreed on condition we get some cash to her. Make sure she's nice and comfy for the rest of her life. The higher-ups will buy it. First lessons for you. Skips who cooperate have life a hell of a lot easier than the ones who fight back. They'll get what they want no matter what, but you can make things easier on them. They ain't stupid. They'll reward good behavior. I can't let you go, kid. You're in too deep. Yeah, you say you won't hurt nobody, and I believe you. But we ain't the only ones out there. There's other folks in this game. Only they don't want to keep you contained. They want to kill you, or worse. Turn you into a weapon. They can make you hurt people. I seen it done. And they'll hurt people to get to you. People like your ma. See? There's a lot of threats out there. Some of them other people, some of them things that would destroy the world if we let them. I've seen what's out there and it ain't friendly. Some of it's wonderful, some of it may help us, but some of it sincerely scares the shit out of me. And I don't scare easy. There's so many things out to get us. Someone's gotta be out there on humanity's side. Nobody's on your side? Yeah, but I'll tell you what. You have any real problems you think you're being treated too cruel? Tell your guard to get word to Max Lombardi. I don't got a whole lot of pull myself, but I could maybe put in a word in the ear of someone who does. Ain't gonna promise nothing. Nobody's gonna make everything right, you know? We just do the best we can. Fuck, motherfucking. Open fire. Open fire. Shit, it's still coming. Don't shoot it in the head. Kimura, fuck. Shoot the legs. Shoot the fucking legs. Shit, get the blast doors. Pull back, you sons of bitches. Okay, we got some breathing space. Let's see the damage. Kimura, you're gonna be okay. I've seen worse. Just lie back a few. We'll see to ya. All right, hunker down, you assholes. Sir, orders? Sir? Boys, secure the perimeter. Me and the captain need to have a chat. Sir, you're gonna be okay? No, excuse me, with all due respect, sir, you are gonna be okay. Because my boys are counting on you to get us out of this. So what are your goddamn orders? Okay, get things secured. I'm gonna go do that. You get your head right, okay? First time on a bug hunt like this. You're bound to get a little freaked, it's okay. Jones, Hamodi, report. Backup power's gonna last at least another hour. Plenty of time, don't worry. We got this. Ain't we the baddest motherfuckers in the land? Keep your eyes sharp, your hands down, and we'll make it out, okay? Jackson, how's Kimura? Okay, just stick with him, as long as possible. We'll keep you covered. Don't leave home until... Well, you shouldn't ought to be alone right now. Zimmer, keep working on comms. We gotta figure out what the fuck the rest of the site's up to. See if they're working on power or if we're on our own. Alright, Captain, how you doing? Look, did you think this shit was gonna be easy? I'm gonna be frank with you. This is what the real world's like. This is what me and my boys deal with. You wanted combat experience, this is it. You maybe thought you'd just keep your head down and get through experience to get promoted. But that ain't gonna happen. You're in this unit. You get in the blender just like the rest of us. So here's the situation. We ain't seen the insurgents since the first attack. We've heard lots of gunfire though, so whatever they're after, they ain't got it yet. I think they're on this level, but I can't be sure until we make contact. The ugly fucker's trying to get through the blast doors. I don't think it'll manage for a while. Even with the auxiliary power goes out completely. The blast doors will be sealed shut. However, I don't want to count on it being stopped cold. More, if it can't get through this way, it's gonna go somewhere else. Maybe get away. Aux power is gonna go down in maybe 45 minutes and we'll have even more breaches. We need to get power back online and keep its attention so it doesn't try to get off site. Once we got power, the automatic systems should let us tap it pretty easy until help arrives. So, what are your orders? Sir, we can't set off the fucking nuke. That's the last fucking resort. Even if we get a major breach, we ain't the only assets in the area. Site 34's... No, sir, we haven't been able to contact them. That's because we're underground, and the comm system's out. Yes, I'm sure they're... Yes, sir. Yes, I understand. I'll give the orders. Jones, your squad's going with the captain. You gotta get him to the shelter. Take him through the tunnels. It'll take longer. Motherfucker can't fit through there. So you should be safer. Keep your heads down, though. We got insurgents running around, and God only knows what the fuck else they let out of their cages. The rest of you are gonna move down to Hall 42. Make a ruckus. Get Fugly's attention. Be ready to blast the shut doors soon as it gets close. Barnes, you're with me. Yes, Captain? No, sir, I ain't going with you. I'm gonna go make one more try to fix the power, and then I won't get into the fucking shelter until every last one of my boys is there. Yes, sir, I see. I still ain't going. Don't give that order, we'll both regret it. Thank you, sir. I'll have the power back up by the time you get to the shelter. I don't. Then you can think about setting off the nuke. So after that, me and Barnes, went to get the power turned on. It was a long shot, but if the captain wasn't going to wait for my boys, I was going to get him the best chance possible. Yes, sir, I know my place is with my men, especially with our commanding officers out. But I'm an engineer. I was the only one who could get the power running. Like I said, the best chance they had. Barnes was with me every step. Well, almost every step. Yes, I did leave him. But it was for 10-15 minutes tops. He had to get some breakers reset, and I needed him watching the doors. Anyway, it took us some time, but we got the power back on. Once we did, we were able to get Ugly contained pretty easily, and the reinforcements from Site 34 cleaned up the insurgents. Jones told me he was ordered by the captain to cover his retreat down the tunnels after he got pinned down by insurgents. We found the captain dead in the shelter. Never got to the button, doesn't look like. No, sir. I don't know shelter's cameras were working. What'd they pick up? Tall fucker in a trench coat. Sounds like nobody. Wonder what the fuck he was doing there. I'll talk to security, get a rundown of everything missing. No, sir. I don't know how he got through all of us. I'll talk to the boys to see if anyone saw anything. Take it from me. Though, I bet they didn't. You don't see nobody unless he wants you to see him. Almost like he was trying to make a point or something. Alright, this is the last one. It's funny. I always tell my boys, don't give your life for the Foundation. Make some other bastard give his. But here I am, fucking hypocrite. That's what I am. But nobody ever promised me retirement, so that's okay. I figure I got another 10 minutes before they make it through the door. Closest backup is 50 miles away, and I know Barnes ain't gonna make it to them in time. Hey Barnes, if you're still listening, you better make it, you fucking asshole, you hear me? This place is gonna blow pretty soon. There are plenty of safety protocols in one of these plants, but I'm an engineer. I know exactly the wrong things to do and in what order. I don't know just when, but it'll take out a good chunk of the countryside when it does. Wait till after you come in. There ain't time for anyone to come get me. Nobody's getting out of here alive. If I have anything to say about it, got one last bullet, and damned if I'm going to waste it on those assholes. So I don't know who else can hear me. Fuckers broke the receiver, so far as I can tell. The transmitter's still good. So I want to say something to the rest of you. We are the ones who save the world, not the doctors, not the council, no one else. Us. We're the last line of defense. The only line. Remember that. Don't die for the Foundation. Don't fight for the Foundation. Fight for the 6 billion folks who won't wake up tomorrow if you don't. That's worth dying for. Some old fart wants to play with skips. He can go fuck himself. You ain't machines. You ain't tin soldiers. You're people, men and women who do the shit nobody else can do. And people make a choice. There's a damn big difference between doing the job because you were told to and doing it because it's gotta be done. I don't care if it's the same fucking job. There's a goddamn difference. There's gotta be. Or what the hell else are we fighting for? And I want you to remember, each and every one of you, that you ain't alone. You understand? None of us are ever alone. You got each other. Every agent that's alive is there to watch your back. No matter what happens, you're one of us. Doesn't matter if you're a saint or an asshole, you're family. You got hundreds of brothers and sisters right there in this shit with you, ready to pull you out. And when you're alone, you're still not alone. Every agent who came before, everyone who's come in after you, they are with you. Everyone you ever trained with, everyone who's watched your back or bitched to you at meals is with you. You carry them with you, so long as you remember that you ain't alone, and you pass that on to everyone you meet. When we die, we deserve to know that we ain't alone. No matter what happens, we got each other. Oh, and one last thing, I'm proud of you. If we ever work together, no matter what else I said to you, I'm proud of you. Even if I never laid eyes on you just for doing the job, I'm proud of you. It's been an honor, guys. And when you come in, if this don't finish him off, give him hell for Max Lombardi. Okay. I think that's gonna be it for me tonight. I don't believe I will be streaming tomorrow, because I have other obligations. But I will see you all Saturday for, I don't know. Anyway, I hope y'all have a good night, and I will see you all Saturday. Bye-bye!